David Pagnotta, you have done it again. Earlier in today's show, it was Elliotte Friedman. We went over some comments that he made in regards to potential Montreal Canadiens trade ideas, and in this video, just an hour and a half later, we are talking about David Pagnotta. Because earlier this week, David Pagnotta ended up posting a 13-minute-long video on Twitter, and it's a commentary with Dennis Bernstein and Kate Pedersen, formerly of the Vancouver Canucks and now seemingly on thefourthperiod.com, so really nice to see Kate Pedersen getting some work here. But this long video goes over a whole bunch of stuff in the NHL. Do the Avalanche have legit goalie concerns? Could the Islanders make Nelson and Palmieri available? Will the Pittsburgh Penguins sniper Brian Rust draw interest? And is Jake Evans an affordable trade target? This video will be linked in the description if you wanted to go out there and listen to it yourself, but the reason we are diving into this commentary today is because of that particular Evans conversation. If you head over to Jake Evans and his entire profile with the Montreal Canadiens, you will note that he is one of the, let's just say, better, more consistent bottom six guys on the team. 28 years old, making $1.7 million a year till the end of 2024-2025. Decently sized right-handed center, and he's got 11 points in 22 games played this year. Should he keep up this point production and max out with a 41-point campaign over 82, this will be the best season of Jake Evans' career thus far. He's been pretty solid, and I don't think anybody's going to dispute the talent here. Obviously, Jake Evans is not Nick Suzuki, he's not Cole Caulfield, he's not going to score the lights out, but what he does do is provide some solid face-off capabilities and penalty-killing prowess as well, in the bottom of a lineup whose top six and top guys are still trying to find their own form. I think that's fair to say, right? Nobody's thinking that Nick Suzuki or Caulfield are in their primes just yet. This team is growing, this team is getting better, and for a guy like Jake Evans, who is more of a stabilizing force at 28 years old, a guy who himself had to go through the ringer as a late-round prospect who was eventually taken by the Canadiens, who had a long career in the NCAA and he worked his way up to get here, Jake Evans is just a good old hockey player, and I think a lot of Canadiens fans respect him for that. This is why when we go over to the commentary made by David Pagnotta on that fourth period video, we had ourselves a tweet made by Leafs Latest that transcribed the comments made here. Jake Evans from the Montreal Canadiens is a player seen as attractive for teams looking to bolster their bottom six, due to his low cap hit and his playoff experience at a young age. The Leafs, LA, and a few others could be in play to upgrade the bottom half of their forward group and would definitely be interested due to his low cap hit alone. As we had said, Jake Evans is making a measly $1.7 million a year, which, if you're Montreal and you retain 50% of that in some sort of a move, would reduce itself down to, what's the math on that, $850,000, something like that? Yeah, that's kind of right? 85 times 2? Yeah, okay, great, I got it. So, $850,000 for a guy who can provide some decent to solid, defensively minded bottom six play is certainly not bad. And because of Jake Evans' prowess in the postseason, which he did play with the Canadiens in that 2021 Stanley Cup Finals appearance, you have to go out there and consider what exactly is it teams would evaluate his profile at. I find it interesting to dive into this tweet and the replies within, because obviously the poster that posted this tweet, Leafs Latest, is a Leafs-branded Twitter account, and a whole bunch of replies go out there and say some pretty interesting things. There are some people saying, hey, Jake Evans is not an upgrade to any good team's bottom six, he's just another guy that every team has plenty of. And you can see a bunch of the replies here. No, he isn't. He's elite on the PK, he's elite defensively, he provides good offense and gives 100% every shift. He is genuinely one of the best PK forwards in the league, and the advanced stats back it up. A lot of people are going out there and defending Jake Evans in a pretty passionate way. And even some Canadiens fans in the replies of this Twitter thread are saying that they'd rather see the Canadiens keep him instead of trade him away to a team like Toronto, for example. And honestly, when I think about it like that, I say, okay, you have to think about where the team is going to go. And With Montreal, I think it's pretty fair to say that they're going to take a few more years to rebuild and retool and get all these guys that they have on the team up to snuff. You want to see Slafkovsky scoring 30 to 35 goals a year. You want to see Caulfield scoring 40 to 45 goals a year. You want to see Suzuki get an 82-point season. You want to see a lot of these things come true. And by the time those things happen, how old is Jake Evans going to be? He's probably going to be 31-ish, maybe 30 if you really wanted to push it. And while it is true you have to have your veteran guys, it's why Brendan Gallagher has a role in this team, it's why Josh Anderson is still sticking around. At the same time, you have to also think about where the Canadiens are going to go center-wise and what their future prospects are going to bring to the table. What does Michael Hage look like when he eventually becomes a Canadian? What does Owen Beck do? What does Philip Machar end up becoming? There are a lot of guys that I could easily see taking Jake Evans' spot in the next little while, and it's not even like, oh, Owen Beck is going to max out as a third-line center. It's more so like, hey, if you give him reps, if you eventually give him that opportunity to do what it is he needs to do to become his best self, maybe he does max out as a guy who takes Jake Evans' spot inevitably. Does that happen in the next few years? Who really knows? Same thing you could say about Michael Hage. It's a little bit difficult to try to project where this team is going to be when Jake Evans is 30, 31, 32 years old. So I really do understand the philosophy of just, hey, if there are teams asking for this guy, they want 50% salary retained for a solid penalty killer, then okay. Grab yourself a first-round pick. Grab yourself a second and a third. Grab yourself a prospect that is actually close to making the show and is a little bit further in his development than, let's say, a guy who's going to be drafted in 2025. Take your picks and see what teams are offering Kent Hughes, because a team like LA or a team like Toronto getting a guy like Jake Evans on their top PK unit actually does sound like a pretty good idea to me. I mean, we've already seen what the LA Kings have been doing with their center core. QB Quinton Byfield hasn't been the best this season. Anze Kopitar has been Kopitar. Philippe Deneau has been Philippe Deneau. There are a lot of guys on that team that are a lot better, I would say, at that solid defensive game. But having three of them all together, Kopitar, Deneau, Jake Evans, oh boy. Imagine the Selke candidate caliber play you'd see from all of this forward core combined with that sort of motivation and that sort of defensive prowess. Think about the Maple Leafs. I'm actually interested in seeing what Jake Evans and Mitch Marner could be doing together. That sounds like a really interesting idea on the penalty kill. Evans provides some good value, and he provides some hard work as well, which could definitely help out the Maple Leafs in the bottom six. They play a fast game, they're speedy, they like to use their mobility. Jake Evans would fit in really well. Obviously, the idea of an interdivisional trade between Toronto and Montreal sounds very bizarre, but it is an interesting idea that I think is worth considering if you want to dive into what exactly it is Jake Evans would bring. And if he could be a Stanley Cup valuable piece in some sort of a bottom six of a playoff contender. I certainly think he has that ceiling. I don't think it's like, oh, he's a bottom six player on Montreal. Why would he be good in a team that's got better players than Montreal? It's more like, hey, this is a very valuable piece in the bottom of that lineup, no matter what team he plays for. He brings value, he can play at the NHL level, he can tango, and he can compete. He's a great penalty killer. And ultimately, the Leafs, the Kings, could they be looking for that? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, how do you feel about this idea? What kind of trade return would you want back for a guy like Jake Evans? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.